Titans, welcome to your last week of distance learning. This week's lesson was on texture. If you remember, texture is how something feels or appears to feel. If we look at paintings, we can't actually walk up and touch them, but you can look at them and you can see texture in them. Today we're going to do some texture rubbings, and what I asked you to do was to find a leaf, and I got a couple here. And then you were to put your paper over top of them and then rub with a crayon or a piece of chalk. I got one that was old and kind of crunchy. I wanted to see if that would look different. And then I have two newer leaves, and then I'm just going to take and hopefully rub across that crunchy one. And see what kind of texture we get. You can see these newer leaves that I just picked off the tree actually worked a little better than the crunchy one I found on the ground. Anyway, you can see the leaf print and you can see the texture. You can see the lines that are in the leaf. But I wanted to try some other items as well. I did this one of the brick on my house. So I just held it up to the side of my house and used the crayon over top of that. And then this is an Amazon Prime bag. Maybe you have one at your house, but I thought maybe this would make a neat pattern. So I'm going to try this one too. Actually, not much of anything. That's disappointing. And then I thought maybe I would try this racquetball racket. Let's see. So some things might work, some things may not work as well. This one is pretty good. This one makes a neat texture, and it's noisy. Anyway, there's the racquetball racket. And then the PTA bought me some rubbing plates, and these have all different designs on them, but I thought we'd see what some of these textures were. Let's look. So these make really nice textures, but if you don't have any rubbing plates like I have, then you can find different things around your house or outside, plants, etc. Anyway, that is what this week's lesson is about. It's texture and how things feel or appear to feel. Titans, this week, instead of having an artist of the week, we are going to talk about Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And just like in the past we talked about Hispanic Heritage Month and Native American Heritage Month and Black History Month, the month of May is set aside as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And that includes the countries of Japan, China, Taiwan, Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, the Philippines, Samoa, Guam, and the U.S. Trust Territories of the Pacific or Northern Marianas. And it's to honor the achievements of the Asian Pacific Americans. And the United States Congress designated the month of May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. So we're going to be talking about some artwork that falls into the category of Asian Pacific. And May was chosen for two reasons. One, to commemorate the date of the immigration of the first Japanese to the United States. That was on May 7th of 1843. And the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which was on May 10th, 1869. The majority of the workers who laid the tracks for the Transcontinental Railroad were Chinese immigrants. So those are two reasons that the month of May was chosen. And so we are in the month of May, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge it and that we talk about some artwork from Japan. We're going to focus on Japan this week. There are many different types of art, but I thought we would talk about Japan. So there are 5 types of artwork that I want to focus on. The first one is called Shodo. It's the art of calligraphy, and that is the writing of the letters or the alphabet or words in Japanese or Chinese. The second one is origami. That's the art of paper folding. And we were fortunate enough to have some Japanese exchange students come here last year. And one of the girls that was here made this little person here. And this is all folded paper. I don't know if you can see it. I'll lift that up a little bit so you can see the folds. But we've done origami in class as well. And we've made little things, but this one I thought was very neat and it's very special. The third one here, it's pronounced ukiyo-e, and it's woodblock printmaking. Now we didn't get to talk a lot about printmaking this year, but printmaking is where you make a form, in this case out of wood. You would carve a picture in there, put ink on it, and then flip it over and make a print, almost like a stamp on paper. And one of the most famous artists is Hokusai, and he made these prints of the Great Wave with Mount Fuji in the background. And he had 36 different views of Mount Fuji, and he's probably the most famous of the ukiyo-e printmakers. The next one is Gyotaku, which is fish prints. Gyo means fish, and then taku means rubbing. So they would take an ink, they would catch fish, take ink and rub over top of the fish, and then make a print. And originally, they think this was used to record their catch. So no one could say they didn't catch a fish of a certain size or type, and then they would eat the fish. So the ink they would use was non-toxic. They would print the fish and then they would eat it. Today, you can print actual fish, or I have some rubber fish that we use in the art room for printmaking, for fish prints. The last one is called Notan art, and that is paper cutting, something similar to this. It's a combination of light and dark, creates positive and negative space. We talked about that earlier this year. Positive space is the main focus of your work, and the negative space is what's around it. So this is creating some positive and negative. If you look at this picture, maybe the positive are these plants and the negative is the black around it, or maybe the positive is the black plant or vines here and the white around it is the negative. So it's kind of a play on that. Hi Titans, your last project for distance learning is going to be Notan art, and that is paper cutting and the light and dark. So what you're going to need are two pieces of paper. I have a black piece of construction paper and purple, and what I did was I took a full piece of purple construction paper and just folded it in half. You want your center piece to be smaller, so that'll be about the right size, I think. And then you're going to create shapes on each of the four sides of your paper. So for example, and they can be geometric shapes, shapes you make with a ruler and a compass, or they can be organic shapes. And they have to start on one side and finish on the same side. So nothing around the corners. If you notice in this picture, they start on this side and finish on that side. So what you decide to make, so it starts on this side, finishes on this side. And you can make more than one on each side if you would like. They don't have to all be the same, but they could be if you want. And if you want to make more than one, you can, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in just a second. All right. And when you cut these out, you want to make sure that you're keeping the shape intact. So I don't want these cut into 4 or 5 pieces, just one piece per shape. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so it's just one piece, fits back there like a puzzle. If you want to do something like this where you have multiple, the outside is going to get cut first. And then we're going to cut this other one. Remember, we want to keep the whole shape intact. Make sure you keep those together. And then you'll do the same thing for these other 2 pieces. When you glue these down, you'll glue the big piece in the center. Let me cut these out real fast. So we'll glue the center down, and then we're going to put it back together, kind of like a puzzle, before we start gluing the shapes that we've cut out. All right, more pieces, my center. So I'm going to put some glue on this. Remember, not puddles of glue, just enough to hold it down. I'm going to put this hopefully near the center. And then we're going to have to find our pieces, put it back together like a puzzle. And then we're going to flip these over. All right. So it's back together like a puzzle. And you're going to put a little glue on your shapes that you cut out, and then flip them over. And you want it to line up with the side, just like that. Okay. Flip it over. And this will make a reflection. So we're reflecting it. We'll talk about reflections in math if you haven't already. Now for this one where I have 2 pieces, you're going to start with the one that's closest in, and this will get flipped out. Again, lining it up with the side. And this one is going to stay right there. So imagine the whole thing would have flipped, and then this piece is going to flip back, leaving that space there in the middle. All right, here is your Notan art. Can't wait to see yours. Timber Creek Titans. The school year is done. I hope you guys have a wonderful summer. I've enjoyed teaching you this year, both in the classroom and through distance learning videos. To my 6th graders, I'll miss you guys. Best of luck in junior high.